Hello everybody. Again, I'm going to tell you something about the types of the test. How do I classify the test? If I ask you a question, can you tell me how many types of tests do we have in English? You may mention these types in a random way, but if you say that I classify or the types of tests are different and these types can be classified according to certain criteria, for example, according to the time of the test into formative and summative tests. According to the place, for example, or recording the result into formal and informal tests. According to certain grades and norms into norm referenced and the criterion referenced. According to the purpose also, I classify the test into many different types, into achievement test, proficiency test, placement test, diagnostic test, and aptitude test. And also, I classify the test according to the scoring scheme, which is not found in your textbook. I classify the test into two types, that is objective and subjective test. First, I'm going to start with the one which is not found in your textbook. According to the scoring scheme, I classify the test into objective and subjective test. Objective test, a test that permits only one correct answer. For example, multiple choice, matching, true, false. There is only one correct answer. While the subjective test, there are more than one correct answers. The objective test, it is a reliable test, while the subjective test is not reliable. Why? Because we have different types of answers, and these answers are affected by the learners and also by the scholars himself or the teacher. The objective test also can be scored by a machine, as in the case of the form, the Google form, etc. While the subjective test cannot be scored or marked by a machine. Why? Because we have subjective test. There is no one fixed answer. Also, the objective tests are difficult to design, to set. Why? Because I need many items and I need the distractors, the options, so it is not an easy job. While the subjective tests, on the other hand, they are easy to construct, but they are difficult to mark. Also, objective tests, they can cover a wide range of the textbook contents, so there is a high content validity. While the subjective tests, they are not. Why? Because they are concerned with certain spots of language and cannot cover a wide range of content of the textbook. Example of objective tests, as I said, the multiple choice item, true false items, matching items, labeling items, rearranging, etc. The subjective test, example of subjective tests are the composition writing, email writing, letter writing, and précis. So this is the first one. The second declassification, I classify the tests according to the time of giving the test, formative and summative test. The formative test, it is an ongoing process, while the summative test, it is not. Why? Because in the formative test, evaluating students in the process of forming their competencies and the skill with the goal of helping them to continue the growth process. So, in the formative tests, for example, daily examinations, quizzes, and so on. So it is, I measure the students, I evaluate the students in ongoing process. While the summative assessments, I'm concerned with the final results. I'm concerned with the results. So I summarize. As I said, final examination in a course and general proficiency exams are example of summative tests. So we are concerned with the decision making, we are concerned with the results. Formal and informal assessment. Formal assessment, they are done with and let's say according to certain standards. These are the formal, while the informal they are not following certain standards. Informal assessment, they are unplanned. There is no certain plan for doing the test. It is the teacher's himself decision. Also, they are incidental. There is no limited time. Also, they are unsystematic. They are not systematic. While formal assessment, in the case of final year examination, mid-year examination, the ministerial examination, they are formal. I have to record the results. Why? Because I need them for certain consequences. So formal assessments, they are systematic, they are planned, they are, let's say, follow certain standards. And then we have norm referenced and the criterion referenced. In the norm referenced, I classify the students according to norms, while in the criterion reference test, I measure the students according to certain criterion and construct. Then we have the types of the test according to the purposes. According to the purposes, I classify the test into 5 types here found in your textbook. The first one is achievement test, diagnostic test, placement test, proficiency test, and aptitude test. Starting with the achievement test. The achievement test, this test is used to measure the students' achievement in a course of study. I give the students materials, course of study, and then I measure the students' achievement to know to what extent the students have achieved what I have taught them. Also, there is something important here you have to know, is that the achievement tests, they are done within the classroom. I give the test, and then I give the materials, and then I set the test for the students to measure them. So it is concerned with what is done inside the classroom. So achievement test limited to a particular material addressed in a curriculum within a particular time frame and are offered after a course has focused on the objectives in a question. Also, the achievement tests are often summative because they are administered at the end of a lesson. This is what is concerned with the achievement test. Diagnostic test. I use the diagnostic test to diagnose the students' strengths and weaknesses at a certain proficiency, competency, or a domain. I want to know if the students, they are suffering from a problematic area of language. I give them a diagnostic test to investigate this. Also, the diagnostic test, it is concerned sometime with the course of study, sometimes no, it is not concerned with the course of study. For example, I'm a teacher, I give the students materials, and then I measure them to know their weaknesses and their strengths. Sometimes no, I'm not a teacher, but I'm concerned with language teaching, and I want to know the students' problematic areas of language. A placement test, I give the placement test in order to place the students according to level. I have different types of levels, I have different levels of students, and I want to classify them into level. I give them a placement test. The placement test also, it is concerned with the classroom level. Sometimes no, it is not. Proficiency test. The proficiency test, it is not limited to any course of study or curriculum or a single skill. Why? Because I measure an overall proficiency. The aptitude test also, in the aptitude test, I want to measure the students some level before I give them a course of study. That is an aptitude test. These are the most types of tests which are classified according to the purpose of giving the test. Thank you very much for listening.